Greetings, YouTube. I'm looking at a thread over an RPG just now, and someone brought up Star Trek, specifically, of course, Star Trek role-playing games, and how if you were to play the episodes of the series, for a lot of the time, it would be not all that interesting from the conventional kind of RPG experience that we do, which is there's a problem, we all go and solve the problem, and then we have interactions in the process, spawning plots and subplots and stuff, and then we go off and we solve the next problem. That's kind of how adventures function. But in Star Trek episodes, it's a whole lot about the interactions between the characters, which is a different kind of gaming experience that some people love and some people don't. Some people are really into interactions just between characters. They're into really talky games. They're not necessarily into really problem solving, going into the world and adventuring kind of games and concepts. That's fine. Um, I like the more, go out and solve the problem kind of thing and adventuring and exploring and things like that. That's not what you really do in Star Trek episodes. Star Trek episodes are often about more cerebral concepts. Not to mention, the Star Trek shows almost always are done from the point of view of Starfleet, which has a very strict set of ethos that everyone is supposed to follow. I'm not saying they do follow it, but let's face it, you're supposed to. You're not supposed to be breaking the Prime Directive every darn episode, even though they break the Prime Directive every third or fourth episode. Um, but as players, and we break stuff. In Star Trek, you can bring up an idea. It will solve the problem in that episode. And that idea is never, ever discussed again. That's not how ideas work. That's not how discoveries work in the real world. If somebody comes up with a novel concept, it may not be immediately adopted by everyone, but someone else is going to pick it up and look at it and go, what can I do with this thing? They're going to bang it around. They're going to smack it. They're going to see where it fits and where it doesn't fit. They're going to try to figure out how many things they can do with that idea. That's how scientific and cultural advances function. I mean, the first video that went up here on YouTube, nobody knew what YouTube was going to become. What YouTube became, for good and ill, in many ways, were unintended consequences. We break things. We push the boundaries. We figure out how stuff works, what doesn't work, and how you can use it to your advantage for good or ill, to spread positivity or to help put a fascist into the Oval Office. Yes, we do this. But in Star Trek, you don't really see that. But then you hand the Star Trek universe to people at an RPG table, and things are going to start going awry. Let's face it, how many groups would be able to strictly run Starfleet games where everything was done by the book? I don't think anybody would, because that isn't as much fun. I don't think anyone wants to play the accountant game. Okay, I'm sure there are people who want to play the accountant game. I think of John of Many a True Nerds. He likes the accountant game. But most of us don't. And so we're going to try to figure out how to adventure in that world. Maybe we want to play in a game that isn't Starfleet, but a lot of people want to. They want to be in the big ships. They want to be able to go out there and do stuff. But that's really a straitjacket. The people on board an aircraft carrier in the real world have far fewer adventures than special ops teams. And there's a reason for that. Their lives are much more structured on that aircraft carrier. They don't have the opportunities that the special ops team does out there on the sharp end of things. They also have a much better chance of surviving their tour of duty and retiring. The candle that burns at both ends burns lasts half as long. So I've never done a Star Trek game flat up. I've done pulpy stuff. I've done things that are far more close to Firefly than Starfleet. And Firefly is a better model, in my book, for a PC team of adventurers in some kind of science fiction setting, whether it's pure science or pulp or science fantasy, what have you. That kind of small group, they got their own ship, whether by hook or by crook, and then they're going out there and they're trying to make themselves a name and wealth and discoveries and the 101 reasons that people game and people adventure. But when you're in a big organization like the Starfleet, it's like being on that aircraft carrier. You're really straitjacketed into what you can and can't do. And while you may be getting exposed to all kinds of exotic things and stuff, you're not necessarily connecting or impacting or rubbing up against them in the same way you are if you're in a Firefly-sized ship. If you're out there doing what you want to without anyone really around to watch what you're doing, and only occasionally bumping into authorities who probably want to question you and then, confiscate your cargo and maybe arrest you. But you handle those ideas that Star Trek brings up to players, they're going to break them. They're going to find every way in the world how that new discovery can be used to their advantage. It's like teaching a little kid a new concept or a dirty word. They're going to say it a lot. They're going to apply it a lot. And that's how gamers are. We're like those little kids. We're not like the staid, stuffy bureaucrats. And a lot of Star Trek is staid, stuffy bureaucrats. And I love the Star Trek universe in many ways. In fact, I'd love to live in that peacetime Star Trek universe because of the post-scarcity, capitalist society that Starfleet has. But as far as adventuring goes, I don't think it's as interesting as Star Wars or Firefly or pulpy Flash Gordon stuff. Because nobody in the Star Trek universe seems to break stuff. They don't seem to figure out 101 ways to use every single thing that they encounter. And new ideas pop up and they just die away, which has always bugged the crap out of me. They don't explore the edges of a lot of things that I think they should be exploring because the authors that are writing the storylines didn't want to, because they weren't comfortable with it, because they brought their own biases with them. There's like almost nobody in the Star Trek universe is gay or trans. There aren't any transhumanists in the Star Trek universe. The conservatism of the Star Trek universe is appalling, in my opinion. I want transhumanism. And you just don't see it. And the technology is there to achieve it. So why aren't we seeing it? Why aren't we seeing it outside the Star Trek? The Starfleet. I want to see the Star Trek universe outside the Starfleet. That would be fun. Not necessarily just the aliens, but humans would be outside that. They'd be doing stuff and experimenting and tinkering with themselves genetically and socially and mentally. They'd be exploring the realm that Starfleet won't touch because they can. Outsider art and theater and what have you exists because people want to explore the boundaries. And they don't want to be stuck doing the same kind of an operatic performance every day of the week. There's a straitjacket in the Star Trek universe, and players don't put up with that. We break stuff, man. We find new things to do with everything we can. We cheat, we steal, we do whatever we can to solve the problem at hand when we game. And that just isn't part of what is the Starfleet experience. It's about living on that aircraft carrier, about doing the same thing every goddamn day. It's not all that exciting. There's a reason people game on ships to pass the time. I imagine there's not a lot of role-playing opportunities when you're on a special ops team on a mission.